Okay everybody, in this video we're going to learn how to make some stairs. Now typically residential stairs are made a lot bigger than this. The code for residential stairs is for every step you go up, it's 7 3/4 inches max. But in this example, for practice, we make some smaller ones just right off the bat to practice our skill and not use up as much material. So it's less cutting, less waste of material, right? Save the wood. So in this example, we call it baby stair stringers. A stair stringer is the side board that is cut out of usually a 2x12, but we can use 2x10s in our case because they're smaller. But usually it's a 2x12, so even a bigger board. And then this board here, you can see how the steps then become cut out of it to create the profile of the piece. So there's a lot of waste when you cut out this board because, you know, it was rectangular, and then we notch out these angles here, 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 and here to create the steps. Now, the notes on this, the things you need to know is you need to know how high of a deck you plan on walking up to. So for example, let's say this was leading up to this deck. You need to know the height of this deck from the ground, right? The last step usually is the surface that you walk on at the new level. So you can see that these stairs are one step short of the level that they go up to. Then we want every step to be the same, even to the top deck. So we have the total height that we're trying to get up to. So in this case, it's 18 inches. Then we know like the maximum height that we can go. And so for residential, that's typically 7 3/4. But for these baby stair stringers, since it's for a baby, we're gonna say 5 inches max for the height. And then the tread depth is typically 10 inches for residential nowadays. But for this baby, we're gonna say 6.5 inches is the tread depth, which is from here to here. We're gonna say we're gonna add a 1/2 inch nose on those treads. So here's our 1/2 inch nose sticking past the tread depth. And then creating for an overall 7 inch landing for you to step on, or 7 inch tread, right? Tread plus the nosing. And then we're gonna say we're gonna use 1.5 inch thick treads. That's these material. And the stairs are 16 inches wide, so that's going to be 16 inches wide. And if they were really wide, we'd have a stringer, you know, every so often. So if they're even wider, maybe we'd have one more in the middle. Okay, and that's pretty much all the information we need to know to be able to create stairs. So how does that work out? Well, let's say we knew our max height was 18. And we wanted to know how many steps to make it. Well, if we had 18 inches in total height, that's what this is saying, 18 inches in total height divided by our maximum rise. So that's as high as we can go. That would get us 3.6 steps. If we round down and have 3 steps, that would mean each step would have to be even bigger than our maximum allowable. So we have to round up to have more steps at a shorter height. So we're going to say 4 steps. So then we say, okay, let's take that 18 inches and let's divide that into 4 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. How high then is each one of those steps up? And so if we divide 18 inches by 4 steps, every step is going to be 4.5 inches high. So if I go up 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, and 4.5, I get up to 18. So that's perfect. So I can cut my risers, which are these members, or these sides of the cut, designed for 4.5 inches high. Now you'll see that the actual thickness of the tread throws that off a little bit. So we actually end up trimming the very bottom by the thickness of this tread. And so I'll show you that at the end when I go to make all these cuts. And so to lay this out properly, we know we have 6.5 for our run horizontally, and then we have 4.5 for our rise, and it's going to continue like that. And then with that ground and then the deck, you know, we get our stair stringer that kind of looks like this. That gets cut out, that all gets cut out. Okay. So knowing that, let's ride this top edge here, and we're gonna go 6.5. So here's 6.5, reading the outside, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. And then we're gonna go up at our rise of 4.5. And so then we're gonna trace this. Here's 4.5 on the outside, and then, whoops, that got a little bit off our mark. Let's go write that again. 4.5, and then 6.5. And this becomes the ground. That's our first horizontal line. This becomes our first riser. Okay, so, and then this piece gets cut out. So now this ground line is gonna just go all the way through. So you see how much waste we already have, right? Now from here, we can just continue that. So I have my 6.5 for my tread depth, and then I have my 4.5 rise, 4.5 rise, 6.5 tread depth. This is my second step up. I'm gonna do the same thing here. 6.5 tread depth, 4.5 rise. So I'm reading the outside to outside. That's my third step up. And then the fourth step up would end up being the deck. So 6.5, 4.5. And this would be the fourth step up, but this is going to become the deck, right? So on our drawing, you can see that our stringer actually only exists for those first 3 steps, right? And then our fourth step is the deck. So I'm going up 1, up 2, up 3, up 4 would be up on the deck. And so this last riser becomes the thickness of that deck. And so actually, we can exit out just like this, and that deck becomes waste. And now you can see how this would fit right up on there. Okay, there we go, like that, right up on there. Okay, so now that we have that, you can see now that the bottom, right, is everything seems to be off a little bit, and there's a reason for that. That's because our thickness of our tread throws off this bottom, right? If we add the thickness of our tread on here, this first step, instead of being 4.5 inches up, it becomes 4.5 plus the thickness of that first tread. So to correct that, we just have to correct the bottom stair stringer. Now on the tongue, the blade, the tongue, on the tongue, it's 1.5 inches wide, or you could measure up 1.5 inches, but I know this is 1.5 inches wide, so I can just trace this. And by doing so, and if I cut out that too, then I've made my correction for that first thickness of the tread. Then I'm on top of that tread when I go to step up on top of this one, so now it's still 4.5 inches for every step. So you just have to make the correction to the bottom one based on the thickness of the tread. Now this is for decks. For inside a house, if you have a carpet or a finished floor, it changes things a little bit, but you make the adjustment based on the bottom one, just like we did here. So everything else stays the same. All right, so I'm gonna go and cut this out. So to cut it out safely, we can go and make the trickier cuts first, and then we can cut it shorter at the end. So I'm gonna go and do all these little notches first. And I have it up against this board, which is secured against my sawhorses. So the saw's going through the material, right, by 1/4 inch. I could tack this in if I want, but I'm just gonna go and cut through. And I'm gonna go the same way, so I don't have to keep rotating. If you're not confident about cutting straight, just not like take a little nibble first and then see where it's at. And to get this last one, I'm gonna have to rotate it, come in from a different way, holding 6 inches away, staying on the waist side of the line. All right, so we cut all the way through, and we'll come back and cut out these areas. saw it bind up a little bit there, so I went back and corrected it. And we'll cut out the rest of those with a handsaw on the inside corner. Notice that my hand is still 6 inches away on every cut. And I move the board to keep my hand being able to hold it far away. Okay. Now I can finish this ground cut, this last cut here, all the way through. So I'm going to do that after the inside corners here, because then it gives me more to hold on to. A general rule of thumb is you want to keep the board as big as possible for as long as possible. There we go. Do this guy. Now you see me overcutting these corners because this is, you know, it would get wrapped with like a nice skirt board, which would hide all those overcuts. But if this board was going to be used on the finished edge, first of all, I'd be using pencil and not marker, and then I wouldn't be overcutting. I would cut just to the line, and then I would handsaw the rest nice and flat to make it look finished. But this would be like a stair stringer that would get hidden by like a skirt board. Otherwise, you got to do it a little bit nicer. So just keep that in mind if you're building it for your parents or for yourself later on in life. You want to make sure that you understand if it's the finished frame of material or if there's going to be another board to finish it off at the end, because you don't need to make it look extremely nice if it's going to get covered with a trim board at the end anyways. It just would be, you know, you'd be putting in more time than you had to. All right, so we still have this cut right here. So I guess I didn't really have to do that inside corner. I have to just cut through right here. So let's do that cut, holding 6 inches away. All right, so now if everything worked out good or well, or however you want to say it, then this can be a template, and that's how we can trace our other ones. So here you see how that works. There's our 1/2 inch nose, our 1.5 inch treads, and now we have a stair stringer.